best friend. And so we did
Oh,
7 kilometers yesterday. When Zoot is good, he's very, very good. And when he is bad, he is terrible.
I love his name, Zutalor.
I know, c'est tout le temps Zoot alors.
Amazing. Okay, well, I think we're going to get started. It's 10 o'clock. There may be some more people that end up coming. Hopefully, we can let them in. I can't really see anyone because I'm sharing my screen, so I've kind of lost all faces. But I'm just going to jump in and get us going so we can have the full time for discussion. So I just want to really welcome everyone. If you're here, you're in session 1A, which is called Fostering Trust, Cultural Safety, and Transformative Learning in Northern Healthcare Education. Oop, I'm going to admit someone right now. And so we have three amazing talks that are going to happen today. So we'll just start right off the bat here. We're going to introduce Julia Wimmers-Klick and David Anekwe. And I'm just going to stop sharing. There we go.
Hi, everyone. I will share now. Give me a sec. Okay. Good. Okay, let's start. So, good morning. Yeah, as Julia said, I'm Julia Wimmers-Klick from the Northern Medical Program, together with my wonderful colleague, David Anekwe from the Physiotherapy North Program. And today we'll take you on a short rural journey, how we integrated interprofessional surface anatomy sessions to foster trust and relationship building among healthcare learners in the early stages of education. As we all know, real-life healthcare is interprofessional. The docs, the nurses, physios, OTs, pharmacies, they all work together, but yet our teaching remains mainly siloed. And also literature supports IPE is awesome. The benefits outweigh its challenges by far. So the real question is how we design and implement it meaningfully. And most structured curricular IPE sessions teach about soft skills, for example, professionalism, communication, ethics, with a reflection part, so very explicitly. And what's missing are hard skill contexts, so shared medical content tasks that naturally invite collaboration, and the IPE values are implicit. And that's where surface anatomy comes in. Short historical review. All these leading agencies pointing to collaboration and relationship building as essential competencies, and also providing frameworks and even mandates that all health programs integrate interprofessional collaborations into curricula. So we asked, how early can we start? And let's add IPE sessions with medical content, like hands-on content, to right now extracurricular, but our goal is curricular. In the North, we have unique challenges, limited medical resources, as we all know, thin coverage of healthcare professions across the vast area of our beautiful North. So the need for teamwork in rural practice is even more important than in urban areas. So short view here, where students get exposed to IPE in their education on campus early on, curricula implemented since 2015, mainly soft skills. On campus, hard skilled is not implemented yet. So the red font is our project or initiative. And off campus, later in their educational path, in the hospital, in the clinical settings, it happens unstructured, like clinical placements in the hospital. So to give you a little bit background, surface anatomy is critical in all clinical practice, right? How to examine human bodies. But it is actually under taught in early medical education. It is not in their curriculum. And PT students actually get extensive training in surface anatomy. So why not merge these two cohorts early and let them teach each other? So we started to offer extracurricular IPE surface anatomy sessions 2022 and now have our 4th round right now. Sorry, that's, yeah, focus. As mentioned, we are running the program since 2022 with evolving themes. So each year a slightly different focus in the questionnaires and the feedback interviews. So 2022, we started with feasibility. So is it actually feasible to integrate this? 2023, we focused on trust and relationship building. 24, the peer learning and peer teaching aspect, which is really interesting. And this year, 25, we are focusing in the questionnaire interviews about the importance of physical touch. So each year adds a new layer of understanding. So today's presentation focuses on trust. Here we see the 6 interprofessional competencies defined by CIHC and CanMates. And when you look at it, what is the core competency of these 6 domains? And yes, trust or relationship building is at the core. So in healthcare, especially in small teams, it's trust and relationship building what keeps collaboration alive. So our research goal was to explore the potential of these integrative IPE sessions and how do they shape relationship amongst healthcare students. Our methodology and method, we used mixed methods approach. We handed out a shortened interprofessional collaborative competency attainment scale survey. We actually did cut out quite a few questions because they were not applicable in this early stage of education because they were not in the clinic yet. But the questionnaire was quite suitable because it was before and after activity assessment. Then the second part is a short feedback interviews to capture their impressions done by a research assistant. We had ethical approval and who was invited, who were the participants, all students of the year 1 PT North program and all students of the year 2 NMP students were invited. And that's how it looked like. So we always have a great turnout. So over the 4 years, an average of 30 students per session show up. So we start with pizza as an icebreaker. And as you can see, it works as an icebreaker. And this is not, then we go into the Blink lab for 1.5 hours to let the students teach each other surface anatomy. And the PT students teach the medical students in real anatomical palpation. We start with a review of consent. So always to ask if it is okay to be touched or if to examined. And afterwards, 14 different anatomical tasks like structures to find. Mixed pairs, and then we swap. And is actually a perfect context, a perfect frame for building relationships. results. So here are the student feedback results, and I will read it to you. Loved content-related conversation with the medical students, same page but different perspectives, very interesting. Most productive learning environment, no competition, just learning together. I love to see the medical students become more confident in the second session. Opportunities, it's great practice. We prepare extra hard because we don't want to look bad. And one student said, great way to bond, half naked. And another one said, I like the second session even better. Did you put something in the chat? I don't see it because I shared.
Sorry,
many
just letting you
minutes?
know there's 5 minutes left. Sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
5 minutes. Okay. Weakness, not enough IP session to build strong relationship. Threats, not time for. So we also interviewed students who didn't come, and they said need time for study, can't afford extracurricular activities. And one student said, I'm not part of social groups and I fear of being outsider again. Hold on. Faculty interview, a few quotes here. So rewarding to see how they bonded through working together and teaching each other. Students' body language we observed moved very fast to a trust level. Loved the positive atmosphere in the room. A lot of conversations and laughter. Everyone was involved, very inclusive. And observation of cross cohort communication collaboration after the IPAE session. So afterwards, they actually planned to do a trip together, one cohort. So that was a very nice side effect. And here I will speed up a little bit. So the data confirmed what we observed in all the interviews. Most participants agreed that the IPS session was both suitable and efficient for relationship building and trust building. And the ICAS results, even a few sessions shifted their perception of each other from the other profession to teammates. Conclusion, in short, IPE sessions foster trust, collaboration, and respect. Very interesting, breaking down hierarchies, because the PT students were teaching the med students. So this was really breaking down hierarchies, which I really loved this aspect of our project, and to build shared identity. And early bonding is vital, especially for those who later work in interdependent rural teams. Outlook. We are now developing a framework to guide and replicate these sessions on other sites. And the long-term goal is to fully integrate hard skill IPE sessions such as surface anatomy into health curricula along the traditional soft skill approaches. And now we are at the almost last slide to show you some references. I will not go into deep there. And this is a picture of David and our lovely colleague Robin and me, because they were teaching, so we had time to make selfies. Thank you so much. I think I'm in time, right, Julia?
That was perfect. You did a great job. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for doing that. We do have 5 minutes for a chance for questions and comments. So I'll open it up to the group. If you feel comfortable raising your hand or taking yourself off of mute, please do that. Or you can use the chat if that's more comfortable for you. But just a chance to ask some questions. I thought that was really, really cool. Just the outcome of that building of trust and the seeing each other as colleagues rather than the other. That's really neat.
Yeah, my favorite part of this presentation are the pictures of the students, how they bond and have fun and chat and share pizza.
Yeah.
But also teach each other, right? Like these
Yeah.
teaching parts, these peer teaching. We didn't really, when we started this, we didn't thought that peer teaching is so powerful. We kind of discovered it for ourselves, because they prepared, the PT students prepared so well because they didn't want to look unprepared, and the math students tried so hard to, because they didn't want to be embarrassed either. So it was really, really neat. Yeah.
That's amazing. Very neat. We've got some comments in the chat saying, the pictures are really great team building. I love the non-hierarchical approach. It's excellent.
Thank you.
Just trying to see if there's any other hands up. Oh, Sarah, jump in, sure. Oh, you're on. There we go.
There we go. I'll just ask a question just for the sake of extending the conversation. I'm super interested in breaking down hierarchies where med students and then medical physicians seem to claim and hold immense power in the healthcare ecosystem. You mentioned, Julia, that was successfully unstabilized or destabilized. Do we have evidence for that? Do we know if it holds longitudinally? And just in the name of interprofessional equality here, David, I would be happy if you would answer that so that we had both presenters speaking too.
Yes, I think our study is actually, this is one of the reasons why we love the approach of integrating this intervention early. Of course, we all know that all the people who come in to both the PT and medical school have done their first degree, and they come in understanding and assuming this hierarchy because they have been part of our healthcare system. Yeah. It was interesting when you see the way they bond into the session and how they enter that landscape. They have all learned anatomy, but medical students suddenly realize that there are different levels in this anatomy they've learned when it comes to actually being able to identify these structures in the human body. And as you break the sessions, we'll have them in groups, in pairs, across professions. You see the switch as you hear discussion, because we'll have a guided curriculum which we put up on the slide, and we leave the students, and you would see the interdependency and how they look up to the PT students to first lead the first sessions because they want to know, they're asking questions and say, how did you identify this? I learned this in anatomy, but so you would see that switch. But it's a snapshot, right? And our first cohorts are still in the medical school. We just started 2022. So it would be interesting to actually think of how we can capture whether this experience lives with them longitudinally as they go into clinical practice.
Get them to tell stories, but just to say that was great. I really enjoyed the presentation. Thanks, you two.
Thank you so much. And I think, Julia, we should talk about how to capture that story in the future.
And we have another comment in the chat. Shari is saying, I can anticipate this collaborative training might have the positive side effect that medical students would learn more about physiotherapy roles, responsibilities, level of training and expertise, and this would only enhance future interprofessional collaboration opportunities. So nice thinking about that long-term impact of how they work together in the future. Excellent. Any other questions or comments before we turn it over to our next speaker? Just doing one last check to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay, well, we might as well jump into the next presentation then. Thank you so much to Julia and David for that excellent talk. We are now going to move to Denise Webb, Regina Carlson, and Lennette Desjarlais, Braelyn Fossl for their presentation.
Is somebody, Regina, I think you're muted. We can't hear you.
Thanks. Thanks, Julia. Rookie move.
It's all good. We've all been there. At least once a day I do that.
Sorry, Regina, I was trying to find out how to unmute myself to tell you that.
Okay, thanks,
Okay,
Denise.
I think we're good.
Welcome everyone to the Indigenous Cultural Safety Training, the curriculum review and update. Thanks for having us. My name.
Sorry.
Thank you. Howdy, Pandada Hunzu. My name is Regina Carlson. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the territories we are calling in from. Myself, I'm calling in from my home of Saikas First Nation, and I'm one of the 3 education coordinators for Indigenous Health, Cultural Safety, and Anti-Indigenous Specific Racism Education Team. I'm happy to be here and introduce, the good work that we have been doing for the last few months with some of our partners that will be presenting and speaking in some of the slides. The objectives and the goals of the curriculum and goals links to the many commitments and the declarations to improve healthcare of Indigenous people, and specifically to the BC Cultural Safety and Humility Standard, the Pillar 5.2, developing human capacity and ensuring cultural safety and humility education is incorporated as to the views of our First Nation, Métis, and our Inuit peoples in our communities here in the North, but also not only the North. The project partnership and who were involved in this project were Northern Health Authority, the physicians, the National Collaborating Center for Indigenous Health, First Nations Health Authority, the Métis Nation, British Columbia, and the University of Northern British Columbia, as well as including education coordinators, nurses, instructional design experts, which I'm so grateful for them, the general and specialized physicians, public health experts, researchers, analysts, health promotion coordinators, and academics. We had a pretty large team in the core, but also in the working groups. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about why we created this 7.5-hour curriculum that's based on a 20-hour curriculum. But first, I should introduce myself. So my name is Denise Webb. I'm a research associate with the National Collaborating Center for Indigenous Health, or NCCIH. I'm of Irish and Scottish settler ancestry and live and work on the beautiful traditional territory of the Tlili. So I'll be talking about why we focused, again, on the 7.5-hour curriculum and just some of the purposes of this work. So first, there were calls from Northern Health leadership to create the 7.5-hour course, which resembles the length of a workday. And so this is intentional because the course will be mandatory for all staff joining Northern Health as part of their orientation package. So to make this feasible, the updates also focused on improving the accessibility of the content in terms of its length and the reading level as well. So the second reason was to address learning needs within Northern Health that were identified by medical staff on the Northern Health Medical Advisory Committee. And so these needs were identified by looking into evaluation data and feedback that was taken from previous education sessions at Northern Health. And so the third reason was to fill an educational gap, which focuses on cultural safety education situated in Northern BC. So with this, we look to ensure that the content is Northern BC specific. So Northern Health staff and physicians, they can be more informed about their surroundings, the land that they're on, the languages that are spoken here, and the cultural history throughout Northern BC. And so these updates really help set this curriculum apart from other cultural safety courses that are out there. Finally, the fourth reason was to gain continuing medical education, or CME accreditation, for this course. And this will really help to increase the incentive of taking the course by physicians working with Northern Health. And this was not previously done with the 20-hour course, so that's new as well. So this is just a few examples of the sort of updates that we had made to the 20-hour course to create the 7.5-hour curriculum. And these updates are based on new content or additions from 2022, when the 20-hour course was originally launched. So for starters, the course was updated to embed community voices and perspectives throughout the curriculum. And so, for example, we did this by engaging with Northern Health regional health directors who are overseeing the delivery of care on the ground, as well as partners from MNBC, or Métis Nation BC. For each group, we collected video messages and audio recordings for folks to speak to the curriculum's importance for their particular region and how it may improve the care for First Nations and Métis clients in the North that they'll receive at Northern Health. So we embedded these messages throughout the curriculum so to offer learners context and voices to the different lessons that they're receiving. So we also engaged with new research as of 2022, including a recent publication by the NCCIH academic lead, Dr. Terry Eldred and colleagues. And so this research, for example, it looked into Indigenous people's experiences of anti-Indigenous racism and discrimination in healthcare settings across rural BC, which of course applies to much of the North. And so I have a little picture of what that article looks like on the slide here. So this sort of research update, it was helpful because I really built off of what we learned from the In Plain Sight report that was published in 2020 and informed this report informed much of the 20-hour curriculum. And there are also some more simplistic updates as well, such as using 2021 census data as the previous course used the 2016 census. We also included new Northern specific sections, such as learning activities to locate the 50+ First Nations and 11 Métis charter communities in Northern BC, including little fun facts or did you know tidbits of information on different Métis charter communities in the North. We also included Northern specific topics such as lessons on the Highway of Tears across Northern BC and the Moose Hide campaign and the history of day schools that were in operation in addition to residential schools in Northern BC, which had a very large presence in the North. So just based on this number of updates and remembering that this is only from 2022 onwards, this really highlights the evolving and dynamic nature of this work and the need for regular evaluations and updates. So I'll hand it over to Braelyn.
Thank you, Denise. Good morning, everyone. My name is Braelyn Fossl, and I serve as the Northern Region Senior Analyst of Cultural Safety and Humility with the First Nations Health Authority. I would like to acknowledge with gratitude that I join you from the traditional, unceded ancestral lands of the Haisla Nation. I'm here today on behalf of the First Nations Health Authority to share our role in the collaborative review and update of Northern Health's Indigenous cultural safety training curriculum, Respectful Relationships. As the first province-wide health authority of its kind in Canada, created and governed by First Nations in BC, NHA's mandate is to improve health outcomes for First Nations by transforming health systems to be more culturally safe, community-driven, and rooted in First Nations values. Through our strong relationship with community, built via governance and engagement pathways and our quality care and safety program, we're able to bring forward authentic experiences that support healthcare staff in cultivating cultural humility, deepening their understanding of cultural safety, and fostering meaningful change. As part of this process, FNHA contributed to the development of scenario-based learning activities that are informed by the high-level themes and recurring challenges shared by First Nations individuals and communities in Northern BC. These scenarios are not based on any specific or identifiable experiences. Instead, they reflect common patterns and experiences that have been consistently voiced by First Nations in Northern BC accessing care. This approach ensures that the training is both grounded in reality and respectful of privacy. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to Northern Health and the National Collaborating Center for Indigenous Health for including FNHA in this meaningful work. Your commitment to collaboration, cultural safety, and cultural humility is deeply appreciated and essential to advancing equity in healthcare across the Northern region. And with that, I will pass it over to Lennette. Thank you.
Thank you, Braelyn. Tansi, Lennette Desjarlais, Netsika hello, my name is Lennette Desjarlais. I am of Cree Métis ancestry, and I reside in the traditional unceded Tsimshian territories of the Kitsillis and Kitsim-Kalim peoples. And as well, we have a charter community, Northwest BC Métis Association here in Terrace. So Métis Nation BC appreciates the invitation to participate in the Respectful Relations curriculum. As the forgotten people, a term that has been used many times, having a presence in the Northern Health facilities, and more education and awareness of who the Métis people are, helps create that cultural safety and cultural wellness. We recently had several sash unveilings at several Northwest health facilities, and just to have that inclusion and visibility in the locations, definitely giving us a sense of pride and belonging and inclusion, which it's been a long time coming, and it's really nice to be able to walk in and say, hey, that's me, here I am. And so that's a great feeling. We appreciate those taking the time to understand where we've come from, where we've been a silent voice for so long. For those who may not be aware, the Métis are one of the 3 constitutionally recognized Indigenous peoples in Canada, alongside First Nations and Inuit, of course. We are descendants of mixed Indigenous and European ancestry with a distinct culture, language, and history. So just emphasizing that, yes, we do come from our First Nations mothers, and our languages, our 3 languages are based on a lot of our great-grandmothers, great-great-great-grandmothers' language, but we definitely are a distinct culture. The Métis are thriving today through expanding education, economic development, and cultural revitalization. We feel pride in who we are now, and there's acknowledgement and the inclusion of the Métis voice in this curriculum is a step forward in this truth and reconciliation. Really appreciate the invitation, and Marcy, thank you for listening.
Thanks, Lennette and Braelyn. So just our one of the final slides here. Just want to talk about how this curriculum will be evaluated. And so we have our plans outlined here. So just to summarize, the curriculum will first go through a 3-phase piloting exercise. To first be piloted with the Northern Health Executive Team, including regional health directors, the medical leads, then service delivery leads, and those who are delivering care and working directly with clients. Each participant piloting the course will have previously completed the 20-hour curriculum, on which, of course, the 7.5-hour curriculum is based, so that can help inform their evaluations and experience taking the course as well. So participants of the pilot will have a standardized evaluation form to complete, and these are still under development, but they're also required for our CME accreditation application. And so after the curriculum goes live, it will continue to go through a quality improvement process by collecting post-curriculum feedback from course participants and using this feedback to consistently update and revise the course, ensuring it stays relevant and effective for participants and informative to improve the care that First Nations, Métis, and Inuit clients will receive at Northern Health. So this brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend and hear about our collaborative work. We welcome any questions or comments and have our contact info listed here on the slide if you'd like to get in touch. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you all. That was fantastic. Really interesting work. So neat to hear about how this curriculum is evolving and really representing content from the North. That really great to see. We do have one question in the chat so far. So Vivian is asking, will this new curriculum also be available for UNBC health education students?
So I think the answer is no. This 7.5-hour curriculum is going to be just for all Northern Health staff. So that's including physicians that are working with Northern Health and corporate staff, everyone who's entering the Northern Health, and will be taking this course as part of their orientation package. So however, with these updates, we also, because there is that 20-hour curriculum, and that 20-hour curriculum is hosted on the UNBC website, and I think also with Northern Health. So these updates, that's our next line of work. We're going to be updating the 20-hour curriculum based on this new course, as well as other deepening learnings, kind of, because everyone will be able to take the 20-hour course, but only Northern Health for 7.5. So for those who haven't taken the 7.5, there'll still be that foundational learning. But if you take in 7.5, the 20-hour course will also be an option to deepen your learnings about particular topics. And it might even take even more than 20 hours. We'll see, but that's something that we're doing now, and that's going to be available to everyone.
Excellent, thank you. And in the chat, David is saying, what an innovative and inclusive approach to this development of this curriculum. That's fantastic. Just trying to see if there's any other hands up. I'm apologizing if I'm missing anyone. If you have any questions. Excellent. Oh, there's a Q&A question. So Benita is asking, would you recommend that staff who have taken the 20-hour training also take this shorter training? It looks like it has new information, and is it ready to access? So people are eager to get access to this.
I've been talking a lot. Regina or Braelyn or Lennette, do you want to chime in?
Thanks, Denise. The curriculum, the 7.5 7.5 is not currently ready. We're hoping to launch April 1st. Fingers crossed, everything. There's a lot of work that goes on in the background with instructional design, everything. So we're still building that plane and hopefully we'll be ready April 1st.
Excellent. Wonderful. We've got lots of eager people who are excited to take the curriculum. So that's wonderful. I'm sure there'll be lots of.
It's beautiful to hear. Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, just going to give it another couple of seconds to see if there's any other questions or comments coming in. Lots of accolades in the chat here. Thank you. Great presentation, everyone. Okay, well, thank you so much to our second team of presenters. Maybe in the interest of time, just to make sure everyone's got their full presentation time, we'll move to the next presenter. So our third topic today, we've got Sarah DeLeo, Vivian Jasowski, and Katerina Orbach, who are going to present next. And apologies if I have pronounced names correctly.
I'm going to share presentation. Everybody should be able to see the slides. Okay, perfect.
That's great. Thanks, Julia, for nodding. And Vivian, thanks for being the hand behind the slides. For those of you who are here, thanks so much for being here. Just a very quick and profoundly sincere recognition that the three of us are located on unceded, stolen, and settler-occupied lands. We're coming in from three different territories: Snuneymuxw for Katerina Orbach, Tlait'la'etaneh for Vivian, and Silks in Okanagan, the lands of the Insilchin-speaking people for me. I also just want to give my sincerest thanks to the two groups who just presented before us, the folks from the NCCIH and Northern Health and Métis Nation. You know, frankly speaking, I don't need to present any of this because you all just summarized everything so beautifully. But for those of you who are on Haisla, Kitsillis, and Tsimshian territory, I grew up and finished high school in Terrace, and if somebody would just give a wave to the Skeena River, you would really make my heart warm today. So thanks, Braelyn, for coming from Haisla and other territories, Tsimshian territories. Just a real love out to everybody. Next slide, please, Vivian. And this slide recognizes that we've been doing this work actually for almost a decade now. And Nicole Cross, whose name I saw somewhere in this large array of folks, Nicole has just been an integral part of this from the very onset. Vivian, I think you're going to be able to pop a paper that we published together a number of years ago, upon which the presentation that we're going to offer you today builds. So this is really the second part of a decade-long project that looks to build cultural safety and cultural humility, and also secure culturally safe healthcare providers for the future, particularly medical healthcare providers, by placing undergraduate medical students into Northern First Nations communities. So very specifically in the Northern Health region and First Nations communities. So medical students are taken and placed into those communities, and we believe that that in-place and humanities-informed learning opportunity really increases their overall humility. So we'll look at that presentation today and the most recent evidence around that. But before we do that, just a quick context, if you could move us up one slide, Vivian. To say that, again, as the previous presenters spoke about, we know that anti-Indigenous racism is rampant across the healthcare system, the health system ecology. We know that bias is baked into the medical education system. And we know that there are increasing and sharp and very urgent calls to disrupt the kind of racism and other biases that are so prevalent across the healthcare system. So in the same way that our brilliant and beautiful colleagues at Northern Health and the NCCIH Métis Nation are developing curriculum for folks, we are intentful to take undergraduate medical students in their sort of formative years and place them into the hands of brilliant, surviving, thoughtful First Nations communities to learn directly from First Nations learners in situ. And we ask them to undergo a lot of arts-based reflective work. And that is anchored in a growing evidence that medical and health humanities can really address messy questions that scientific modalities don't necessarily address. So to take you on the journey that we've been on for the last almost decade, I will pass it over to my incredibly beautiful and fabulous colleague, Catriona. Catriona, thanks for working with me on this project for about 12 or so years from its very earliest envisioning. And again, Nicole, thanks for being in the room. And Nicole, if you want to add anything at all during this presentation, please just chime in. But Catriona, if you would just take us through how this program operates, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you for having me on the program because I do really love working on it. So a bit of context about the program. Again, the First Nations Community Education Program is an experiential, humanities-informed, Indigenous cultural immersion program offered to all the undergraduate medical students, and which was created as a direct response to the First Nations Health Authority's request for more medical trainees in the North. The student participants of the program are invited to a 4 to 8 day visit with one of a number of participating rural First Nations communities across northern BC, with a goal to enhance these soon-to-be doctors' capacities for enacting cultural safety, anti-racism, and cultural humility in their future practices. Next slide, please, Vivian. Thank you. With the intent to transform the hearts and minds of future physicians, the heart of this program is based in building real and often lasting relationships created through spending time together, participating in day-to-day activities of life in the North. Thus, in creating a shift in power dynamics, the students are encouraged to leave behind their title as health professionals and arrive instead as learners, open to understanding an expanded perspective of what health and wellness might look like through a Northern and Indigenous lens. We have found this style of learning to be exceptionally transformative. Next slide, please, Vivian. Thank you. The students will produce 3 arts-informed critical self-reflections at specific times throughout the program. These are then anonymized to help us gain a truthful insight into any pre-existing biases that the students may or may not carry as they enter the program. And through these reflections, we can follow and assess if, how, when, where, and why these biases might be transformed through the experience of this program. This process also allows the students to critically assess their own privilege and potentially disrupt their own belief systems through an experience that integrates different ways of knowing, living, and learning. And now the amazing Vivian will dive a little bit deeper into some of what we're learning from this program. Next slide, please.
Well, thanks so much, Catriona. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the findings and our analysis. So altogether, we analyzed 108 arts-based reflections from 36 medical learners who participated in the program over the last 4 years. Our analysis was really grounded and anchored in an anti-colonial, decolonial stance. And with this, our thematic analysis revealed that being in place, so within Northern and remote First Nations communities, really worked to disrupt dominant place-based anti-Indigenous biases. And it also helped to actively transform students' cognitive, emotional, and also perceptual understandings of First Nations. In the next slides, we'll share some of the reflections that students learned with us, and we'll show you examples of both narrative and visual arts in the form of paintings, photography, and also creative writing. So here you can see an abstract landscape watercolor painting with handwriting that one of the learners submitted prior to their visit. And as you can see in this arts-based reflection, for most students, this was the very first time they ever visited a First Nations community, especially one that is actually located in the North. And when we asked to reflect on what they imagined these places would be like, 2 stereotypical pictures emerged. One was that of a very sad place, marked by trauma and poor health. And the other one was that of a tight-knit community that was located in an untouched, peaceful wilderness. A very romanticized picture that really reflects the colonial myth of terra nullius, the idea of empty lands, a myth that has long been used to justify colonization in the minds of many settlers. So those stereotypical imaginations of First Nations communities were accompanied by emotional ambivalence. And here you can see a collection of what different learners wrote about this. And when you look at those excerpts, you can see that while learners did express hope and curiosity to learn more about First Nations communities, many also described feelings of shame and guilt for being settlers on this land and for benefiting from ongoing injustices. And many also expressed fear of saying the wrong thing or of being judged in community. And in critical Indigenous and settler colonial studies, these types of emotions are often referred to collectively as white settler emotionality. And the problem with white settler emotionality is that if it is left unexamined, it actually works to recenter settler perspectives and reinforce rather than disrupt existing colonial power relations. In the mid-program reflections, we saw, however, that being in place on the land and relationship with community worked to unsettle those biases, many of which had previously gone unacknowledged. So, for example, many expressed surprise at discovering a new sense of shared humanity and also at witnessing community strength and resilience. So in this way, being in community really helped to challenge colonial constructions of the other, including those common deficit-based stereotypes about First Nations communities. What was particularly powerful for many learners was to listen to elders' stories, oftentimes while actually walking the land. And that was powerful because it really helped to unsettle often taken for granted place-based biases, such as imaginings of First Nations communities as untouched places in the middle of nowhere. So here is an excerpt for one of the learners who wrote their reflection in the form of a personalized letter to the elder who had hosted them, sharing that I once heard someone call communities in the north the middle of nowhere or the wild wilderness. But it is your home, your land. In fact, it is not the middle of nowhere. It is somewhere, and a very special somewhere that you call home. And looking ahead, the student went on to say, I'm going to avoid saying places are in the middle of nowhere because minimizing the importance of that land for people who live there is ignorant and disrespectful. Thank you for prompting me to reflect on this. Learners' post-community reflections showed that learning in and through place really shifted not only how medical learners felt, thought, and also perceived First Nations communities, but also how they understood their own positioning in place, with one learner, for example, comparing the place of their learning with their own home community, a home that was suddenly understood also as being of landscapes, trees, and sky. Many learners also critically reflected on and began to unpack feelings of discomfort and vulnerability that they had experienced while being in the community initially, because they had to leave behind their expert status and really were entirely dependent on the community host, of driving them around, of hosting dinners, and so on. And here's a quote from a student who reflected on this experience and that particular urge that many described, the need to be useful and helpful. But here the student is really unpacking this notion, recognizing that perhaps it might signal more a need to hold on to power and perhaps more of like white savior tendencies than a genuine intent for relational engagement. So together, these experiences fostered commitments to humility, deeper perspective taking, and greater empathy among learners. And here are a few excerpts from reflections that were submitted after the visit in the community. Most importantly, also, students expanded their understanding of physicians' social mandate. So for many, this actually ended created a sense that they really wanted to engage in future advocacy work and really intentional community work, while also opening up new possibilities for considering to practice in the North. And with this, I'm going to give it back to Sarah. Thank you.
Vivian, thank you so much. And Julia, I know we're essentially out of time, so I am just going to say power of arts, experiential learning, and being invited by Indigenous communities, by First Nations Northern communities, supported by First Nations communities to do this work. Those things, along with in situ learning, in-place learning, and learning from the land, in my humble estimation, will be what transforms future physicians and, frankly, the healthcare system writ large. Next slide, please. I think I just say that again, arts working in partnership, authentic partnership, long-term, like decade-long partnership with First Nations communities in the North. And just again, a shout out to my stylish, beautiful, thoughtful friend, Nicole Cross, who has been with us on this journey from the onset. And for any of you who would like more information, please feel free to be in touch. Final slide, Vivian, if you don't mind. This is not possible without a massive amount of funding and generosity and community buy-in and engagement from across Northern British Columbia. So working hard to perpetuate and continue this program for another 10 years. And please let us know if you have any questions. And just a huge shout out, also, all of the art that you saw in this, all of those quotes, that is student produced. I really want to emphasize that art is not an accessory to medical education. Art is foundational, rigorous, and an incredible part of medical and healthcare education and professionalizing. It shouldn't be left to the side. It is central to transformative learning. Okay, that's it for now, folks. Huge thanks, and sorry for going a little bit over time.
You're not over time at all. That was absolutely perfect. We've got lots of time for questions and discussion. That was incredible. I'm literally tearing up. It's just so powerful. The quotes, the art, like it's amazing. The power of art.
And please feel free to download that the first paper where we really detailed the program that was published in the International Journal of Indigenous Health. So if you want that reference, we're in the process of publishing this newest study as well. So fingers crossed, we'll see where that gets out.
Excellent. And I know there's lots of wonderful comments in the chat, and I think there were some questions. One, is there an email address where we can keep in touch about this presentation?
Absolutely. I'll put my email address in there. You're welcome to email me, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Great presentation. Reciprocity is an important Indigenous value. How is this value woven throughout the program to ensure the participating Indigenous communities also benefit from this experience?
Oh my God, Danielle, thank you so much for that question. And entirely, we were just crammed for time. This is an entirely funded program. Every person that that participates in it, that hosts, fully remunerated for their time. The students are often put to work in the community at the behest of the community. We have had them digging outhouse pits. Catriona, do you want to tell just what they have done? We've had them hunting, we've had them cooking, we've had them caring for elders, we've had them babysitting, and everybody that participates in it is fully remunerated. Danielle, thank you for asking that question. Catriona, do you want to give some more concrete examples?
Oh yeah, no, it's just fabulous. This is one of the reasons why I love this program, is because the students the communities are told not to treat the students special. They're not special. They're not, they're not doctors yet.
They're not medical students that we need kid gloves around.
Yeah. This is the power dynamic shift of building this relationship first before they are the doctors. And so we tell them, get them to, if you've got a pile of wood that needs chopping, get them out there, scraping those hard moose hides. You need more hands in. Get them, scrape them, get them working for you guys, playing with the kids, spending time with anybody that needs anything, put them to work in the community.
Put them to work.
And that's like some of the best ways to build those relationships, right? Because it's real. There's nothing fake about it or pretentious about it. And you know, we've had students out there on community buffalo hunts, and then helping through every part of the process where they will help to dress the buffalo afterwards, and then put the different slices of meat in different piles, and then deliver packages of meat to the different elders in the community. And I mean, this is really important for like the health and wellness of a community. And this is something that the students definitely don't get to experience in medical school. And it's a real hands-on opportunity to really, really learn and shift perspectives. So yeah, we have them doing all sorts of stuff. The messier and the dirtier, the better.
The better.
That's wonderful.
Regina and Jenna, I see both your hands. Regina, I think yours went up first.
Thanks,
Regina,
Sarah.
sorry.
Yes, thank you for that. You know, it just made me really laugh, but feel so good inside, you know, to see that cup, but also, you know, to how they were just put to work. Like my mom has people visiting, and then she's like putting them to work, and I'm like, Mom, they came. And it's just so much like our elders to do something like that, and to have them put to work. Like Mom has people bringing in wood.
Yeah.
Downstairs, do this, that, and it's just so beautiful to see, you know, this program. How long did they spend in community, or like?
I can answer that. So the standard visit is 4 days, but we like to get them out for as long as possible. And so we've managed to extend it up to 8 days, and it's always what the students are available for, because they don't have very much time for their flex hours, and then also matching them with communities. And so we get them out there for as long as we can. This 4 days is the minimum, and a lot of the time, most of the students want to go for as long as possible. So we just get them out for as long as we possibly can.
And Regina, I just kind of want to add to this, because some decolonizing and unsettling starts before these folks even go into community. Because one of the first things they ask is, can you please tell me the exact hour that I will be arriving in the community? Precisely how many hours do I have to take? Exactly what do I have to do? Is there an agenda for this? When will I be able to ensure my work-life balance? I mean, they're medical students. Like, they're in medical education for a reason, because they're type A neurotic personalities. I say that with a great amount of love in my heart. And the first thing that we say is, oh, they also want to know, can you tell me exactly when I'm leaving and what community will I be in, so that I can fully prepare all of my research and didactics before I get in? We're like, we don't know what community you'll be going into. You have to be patient. It's at the invite of the community, not at the behest of your agenda. We don't know how many days that you'll be there, because that's going to be up to community. And right away, they start to feel uncomfortable. And it was part of my question for Julia and David in the first presentation is, how do we measure this discomfort? Because frankly, a lot of medical learners who then move into the ecosystem wherein there's a built-in hierarchy, move into those positions of power through certainty about themselves and their relation to other people. And we are out to disrupt that certainty right from the get-go. So it starts even before they get into the community, when they don't know what community they're going to go into. They're told that if the road is closed, that means that they may not be able to go into that community. And that's the reality of it. So Regina, I love that question. Thank you so much. Jenna, I know we're running out of time. So yeah, last question.
Yeah, last question. We've got to shut it down in 2 minutes. I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
2
We just
minutes.
have to jump
Go,
to the
Jenna,
next
go.
one.
Okay. I did my med school in the Northern Health Northern Medical Program.
Yeah.
I'm a pediatrics resident in Vancouver now, but I actually did this program when I was in Prince George. And I did it just at the time when COVID, like I signed up before COVID happened, and then I did it just when it was coming back. So I'm sure it's different.
Jenna. Yeah.
I'm sure it's different now than how it was when I did it. I was also living in Terrace I did it in Terrace, and I was living in Terrace for the clerkship at the time. So I didn't wasn't able to stay with a family. But my question is basically, from my experience, my colleagues who have engaged in this program are people that are already really engaged and working on expanding their experience and like all these wonderful things. And I wonder, like, I'm a real advocate of making things like this and making rural outreach and making like, yeah, rural outreach and rural opportunities part of like a required part of medical training so that everyone gets this opportunity. But I'm curious, I don't think it's necessarily possible to make this mandatory for every medical student, but have you thought about or talked with the program about how even the people who wouldn't necessarily volunteer to do this program could be brought into this experience? And if that's something that you're looking for on the horizon, or if you see like big challenges or big red flags with that approach.
I'll answer this from a curricular perspective, Jenna, and may your beautiful, thoughtful optimism not wane as you move possibly into medical education leadership roles. Yes, we are acutely aware that many of the students, your stunning self, front and center as an example, are folks who want to do this because their heart is already primarily in the right place. I will tell you from a medical education perspective that the moment many discussions about cultural safety, anti-bias training become mandatory in the curriculum is the moment when people who have those biases and those leanings toward bigoted clinical perspectives, those perspectives become entrenched. It can be a very risky thing to mandate and make mandatory in curriculum things that people who already have leanings toward disliking these things, it can re-entrench those. And it can re-entrench it even when it's not in community. The real risk of putting folks who I would agree, Jenna, actually are in most need of this kind of experience into community is they do harm in those communities. And that's the biggest phenomena that this program wants to avoid. And it is a tricky, super confusing slope, Jenna, because I want to have arts and anti-bias training mandatorily injected into medical education. The risk there is accreditation would be like, well, they're not getting the appropriate and like real medical stuff in the curriculum. And there is evidence that once it becomes mandatory, it risks reification of biases that exist. I would, if my colleagues Julia or Dr. Sarah Gray, both of whom I know sit in larger administrative roles with curriculum and undergraduate medical education, wanted to weigh in here, I would value. Sarah, what are your thoughts on making these kinds of things mandatory?
Well, maybe I'll just speak really briefly during the time, and it's been several years now, but when I was the assistant dean, we worked with some of the Carriers County family service communities to actually create a full class visit to community. It's just an afternoon, and so it is a short visit, but part of that sort of memorandum of understanding that we developed with the communities prior to implementing these visits was this discussion of harm, that when you're bringing an entire class, and these visits, while they're just an afternoon, we've had some incredibly powerful moments where community members will spontaneously share experiences around residential schools, et cetera. And, you know, there's always this worry. And so we've been very grateful to the communities who have agreed to have these visits, you know, going in eyes wide open, knowing that we are concerned about harm, you know, and they've still been willing to welcome our classes. That program's now been going for many years, and I would say it has been overwhelmingly positive.
Yep.
And it just provides a little seed. And then some of these longer experiences are more immersive experiences, then can be really taken up by students who, you know, who really have that passion and interest and are ready maybe at that stage of their training for that kind of cultural immersion. But we are hoping that that full class experience kind of opens the door, maybe for some students that might feel nervous to, or just don't even really know how to approach something like that. So I hope that helps. And that is sort of an additional experience that the full class gets with the Northern Medical Program.
I love the question, Jenna. Thank you so much. And thanks for participating in the program.
And great to see you, Jenna, again. You look great. Are you doing great?
Amazing.
Good.
Folks, I feel like we've taken up too much of your precious, beautiful time, but we just really wanted to thank you so much. Please download that paper that was in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me. And if there is anybody on this call, not pointing out anybody, for instance, in Tsimshiana and Haisla territories, who would like to be remunerated as a host family and join our team, we would be forever, forever grateful. So just thank you very much, and thanks to all of you who joined, and just a great big hug to everyone. And Vivian and Catriona, thank you so much. And I think that's it for this session. We just managed to run you over 5. Okay, Vivian is now host. She's going to deal with this. She's going to shut down this room. Just lots of love to you all. Take care of your loved ones, and see you all soon. Thanks, Carmen.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.